Okay, we're going to start in another 1 minute, everybody. So please stand by. All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the day 2 of the third annual Association of Japanese Studies Online Conference 2020. As we all know, the theme for this conference is Environment, Technology, and COVID-19. So we're going to progress today, but before we progress, I'm the anchor for today. My name is Shegun Orimakinde, and as we progress, we'd like everyone to make sure that they are in an environment where noise will not interfere with the conference, especially when it's your turn to present or to speak. Now, we have a few announcements that we want people to take note of, because some people are wondering how the breakout sessions are going to be done. First, we are going to have a roundtable now. We are going to proceed into the roundtable after this brief announcement. So the roundtable will feature discussion on the expected new world. But after that, we're going to the breakout sessions for our plenary. So the breakout sessions, once you are on the platform now, our team members are already working on the list of people here and to determine where you are supposed to belong in the plenary session, the room. So what you notice is that you are going to be sent into separate rooms for the breakout sessions. And once you are sent into the separate meeting rooms in the breakout sessions, you are going to present your paper just as we normally have it in physical conferences. So after the presentation of paper, there's a stipulated time after which we are going to bring everybody back into this page for the General Assembly. So don't worry, we have it covered on where you are supposed to belong, and the panel chair of your panel and the members of your panel, you are going to be in the same breakout room together. So just take cognizance of that in case you are being moved into a separate room. All you just need to do is to follow the prompt on your screen. Okay. After that, we would love everybody to wait, as we have announced prior to this time that we are going to be having our presentation later today. So we are going to proceed now into the roundtable session, which is going to be handled by Dr. Agbola. So I believe he's on standby. Please let me yield to Mr. Agbola to take us further in the roundtable session. Thank you, everybody. You are welcome once again to this day 2 of our third annual online conference. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Shegun. I believe you can hear me clearly, just to confirm.
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you so much. And once again, good morning, everyone. And you are welcome to the roundtable session for today, where we'll be discussing on the beyond COVID-19, the expected new world. My name is Dr. Agbola Maiwa. From Covenant University. I'm currently serving as the Deputy Director of Covenant University Research, Innovation and Discovery, also seconded as the Deputy Director for Open and Distance Learning. I'm a faculty member of the Department of Business Management, and I count it a great privilege to be here today to share this session. And like I said initially, we'll be looking at beyond COVID-19, the expected new world on this roundtable discussion. Just before we start, I would like to give a background of what we'll be looking at with respect to that topic. which I would like to say, first of all, that it is no news of how COVID-19 has affected our world. The world as we know it is no longer the same because of the way we do things now around the world. As we know, for about 6 months, it had been a serious struggle and survival for individuals, organizations, countries around the world. And various economies try to kind of recover even now, even as the lockdown eases off in some part of the world and in Africa, most especially Nigeria. And what the question we want to ask now is, what do we do or what do we expect as an individual, as families, societies, workplaces, and countries in a new world that we find ourselves? Today, we have several persons that will be discussing on this issue, a careful selection of experts from different fields discussing on the topic, the expected new world in the era of post-COVID-19. They'll be discussing areas, we'll be looking at areas like from different perspectives, environment, workplace and work-life balance, education and technology, health and social. And I would like to introduce in no particular order, and I would like to start with Dr. Adaize Ore. I will introduce all of them and I will invite them one after the other to speak based on their perspective and what is expected in this new world. I will start with Dr. Adaize Ore. She is the head Planning, Research and Statistics, National Blood Transfusion Service in Abuja. She's a consultant family physician and director planning, research and statistics for Nigeria's Nigeria National Blood Transfusion Service, with over 17 years experience in healthcare service delivery and health systems management. She's also a senior fellow for global health with the Aspen Institute in Washington, D.C. This morning, she will be speaking on today's topic, Beyond COVID-19, the expected new world, from the perspective of health and social life. Dr. Adaize, I believe you are there. And with a show of our raise hand feature on Zoom, please help me welcome Dr. Adaize Ore. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me this morning on the
Welcome.
conference.
Please, you may speak, ma'am.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me to speak on this roundtable, very important roundtable. And it's an honor for me to be here. Good morning to everyone.
Good morning. Please continue. We can hear you.
Okay. I can go on with my presentation now?
Yes, you may.
Oh, fantastic.
You can go ahead now.
Okay. So all of us are in this new world. But in speaking about COVID-19, we cannot dissociate ourselves from how infectious diseases have affected the world over the years. And so today, as I'm speaking on the health and social perspectives of COVID-19 in Africa, I'll be speaking about this, covering several thematic areas. And the first will be the importance of national and global health security. In August 2015, during the West African Ebola crisis, I recall attending a regional meeting in Southwest Nigeria where, to our dismay and alarm, one of the participants, who happened to be coming from Liberia, where Ebola was still raging at the time, informed us that she had not been subjected to any screening measures throughout her journey. Similarly, Nigeria's first Ebola case flew in from Liberia while infected and sick. And so this demonstrates the ease with which deadly outbreaks can spread rapidly due to laxity at international borders. So while global travel over the years has provided options and alternatives for the ruling class that have led to years of neglect in health and social development in many of the African countries. This global travel has opened us and exposed us to the transmission of many of these infectious diseases. And so in many parts of the world, even during highly publicized disease outbreaks, movements across international borders continued largely unhindered. So it's in this new world now, we need to emphasize greater surveillance systems that will detect symptomatic travelers and increase access to testing and treatment. So it's important that information is disseminated to the public early on the outbreak response, because this is crucial to dispelling any uncertainty and lack of information. But while the capital expectations, the capital outlay for this advanced preparedness is substantial, we've all seen with COVID-19 that the economic consequences of rampant outbreaks are even more dire. And so we saw how the financial markets all collapsed with billions of dollars in investments lost. And this was basically due to the fears of the consequences of the rapid spread of the virus. In 2018, a report that was commissioned with Lancet by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation ranked Italy as the 9th out of 195 country health systems. And we all know how Italy was devastated by the COVID-19 outbreak. It was so bad that they had to call final year medical students, forgo their final exams, and throw them into practice in the health system, just because of the shortfall of health workers. And so if this is something that could happen so catastrophically for a country that was ranked amongst the top 10 in health, you can imagine what the expectations were for countries in the developing world. And so national and state governments have to prioritize human resources for health so that the men and women who are at the front lines to detect and manage healthcare threats are equipped and capable. And so this calls for financing and prioritization. With travel restrictions all over the world, many people had nowhere else to go. And so with the global dynamics surrounding personal protective equipment and ventilators, it also calls for national and state governments to prioritize the creation and enhancement of enabling environments for developing our technology capacity and domestic manufacture of these protective equipment. Another thing, vaccine phobia, the fears surrounding the vaccines. You recall when the Infectious Disease Control Bill was being presented at the National Assembly, there was huge controversy around this. But then many haven't thought about the consideration that perhaps why it was so controversial is that Nigerians are mostly afraid of not being in the driving seat of the research towards the vaccines. And so being in a passive position opened up many to fears around the COVID-19 vaccine being used to monitor and control people. And so this also highlights the need for us to develop our domestic research capabilities and our capabilities to develop science and technological advancements. So there's an African proverb that says, tomorrow belongs to the people who prepare for it today. And I believe that the COVID-19 outbreak has highlighted this, and this is something that we need to start looking towards a more independent future and less reliant on external sources for our capacity and our development. The other aspect that I would like to look into is the epidemics of fear and what was termed infodemics. There were lots of controversies around drinking hot water. People were propagating drinking spurious chemicals and exposure to the sun. These things spread like wildfire because there were gaps in the amount of information that was being passed to the public. It got to the point that even in France, the government had to issue a statement telling citizens that cocaine was not protective against COVID-19. So once that gap is there, and it is not filled with reliable information, all sorts of rumors and misconceptions will take root. And so these are things that we need to prepare for. The fear and panic also led to reports about stealing of surgical face masks, N95 masks from hospitals, because people were afraid and there was no information about how these things could be easily available. As the months went by, they became more readily available. But if we recall, in the early phase of the pandemic, there was widespread panic. Even toilet roll was an issue. So governments have to reactively respond to rumors and untruths, and also prepare for the fact that in these times of uncertainties, there will be many rumors. And so working hard to create information channels that will preempt those rumors. The next thing I want to highlight is the fact that there is an information gap in many of the African countries because of the socio-economic divide. And so this information divide is something that needs to be tackled so that the information is not skewed towards only the urban areas or towards people in the higher socio-economic classes, so that information is also available at the grassroots. The next thing that I want to highlight is the hunger problem. Public health measures such as lockdowns had immense benefits, but at the same time, we will see that hunger grossly undermined the lockdowns and other preventive measures such as physical distancing, and compromised the quality of contact tracing. And this in several areas led to civil and social unrest, worsened insecurity, and contributed to uncontrolled community transmission. In fact, it's not unlikely that the detention of individuals who flouted lockdowns may have contributed to community transmission early in the pandemic in Nigeria. And so given the peculiarities of countries in sub-Saharan Africa that are densely populated and have high rates of unemployment, have a large informal work sector, are prone to conflict and insecurity, and have a high population of the vulnerable, it's important that public health safety and prevention measures are not looked at in isolation, but also are accompanied by robust and innovative strategies to address social factors and humanitarian challenges like hunger. One petty trader was actually interviewed by a TV station in the thick of the pandemic, and she said, food is more important than corona. And her perspective is not lone. She speaks for millions of people on the continent. To provide these social safety nets shouldn't be reactionary. It should be something that is planned for. And so while we're planning for public health interventions, we should also carefully consider and strategize on concomitant economic support packages, so that the process of implementation of these palliative programs is rapid and it's widespread, and is also hand in hand with vigorous communication strategies so that people are aware. In one of the states in northern Nigeria, the state government worked with telecommunications companies, and what they wanted to do was know those who were vulnerable in those areas by using the amounts of recharge cards as a proxy for their placement in the socioeconomic strata. So that way they were able to see people who did not have as much funds and identify them as vulnerable. So while not everybody has access to mobile phone technology, you can see that there's a need for us to strategize on using more advanced ways of identifying vulnerable members of the society. And so lastly, the theme I want to highlight is protecting the mental health fabric of society. Since the outbreak of the pandemic, national lockdowns and physical distancing measures directed across the world, coupled with all the uncertainties, led to an increase in addictive coping strategies and mental health problems. Now, these uncertainties were not limited to fears of the infection, They also included fears of death, fears of losing loved ones. And so for millions of people, these fears about their sustenance and survival meant an exposure to mental health problems. So at the same time, while this widely spreading misinformation about the virus and prevention measures, conspiracy theories have been going on, we should realize that there are major sources of distress. And so for a lot of people across the world, not just in Africa, this was seen in China, this was seen in the US, in Iran and Ethiopia, with active research that was coming out about how there were documented increases in mental health challenges. And so we should see that there is a clear relationship between escalating mental health disorders and infectious diseases. It was also documented in the Ebola outbreak. And so because of the widespread stigmatization of not only mental health disorders, but infectious diseases, we need to integrate mental health into primary health care. This stigmatization, if we'll recall, was one of the reasons why self-reporting in Nigeria early on during the pandemic was low, because people were afraid of being stigmatized. And so with integrating in primary health care, we should also once again use information and communication to build a robust mental health response. Lastly, self-care cannot be overemphasized, and individuals need to take protective actions, limiting the amount of news that they consume, being wary about the sources of information, but at the same time staying virtually, socially connected to family and friends, and keeping physically active and healthy. So while I'm emphasizing that mental health is an issue that we should be expecting increases in and being proactive in how we respond to it, I would just like to leave my paper on this note with some words from Aristotle Onassis. And he said, "It is in our darkest moments that we must focus and see the light." COVID-19 has set upon the world one of its darkest moments in history, but we can focus, see the light, and work together to curb the rise and spread of the various challenges that have been occurring in unprecedented proportions, so that we can overcome them. Thank you very much, AAJS, for the opportunity to speak this morning.
Thank you very much, Dr. Adaize, for that insightful presentation on the perspective from the health and social, talking about what's it called now, beyond COVID-19, the expected new world. Now you have been able to tell us what we should be doing in the new world regarding our health and how we relate socially with other persons. At this point, I would like to request that in case you have questions or please kindly put it on the chat. And I think my colleague, Mr. Shegun, will help me out to collate those questions so that we'll be able to address them during the time of question and answer. I'll quickly move to the next speaker. He's Professor Kolawole Oluseyi Ajanaku, who is a professor in industrial chemistry from the University of Ibadan. And he currently is a faculty in Covenant University. His research fields cover waste management, food chemistry, corrosion, CMCs, and nanotechnology. He won the prestigious TWAS CSIR postdoctoral fellowship to undertake research in developing a glass ceramic matrix composite using industrial wastes. I would like to welcome Professor Kolawole Ajanaku, who will be speaking from the environment perspective with respect to beyond COVID-19, the expected new world. Professor Ajanaku, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. I want to appreciate the AAJS for this privilege and the opportunity that is given concerning the topic, what happens after COVID-19. I will be speaking on the environmental perspective. I was trying to see whether I can share my slide. But if not, I'll just speak to the slides from here.
You may share your slides, sir. Yeah.
Okay. Let me see. It's great.
So while he's trying to do that, just to buy time, we have Dr. Olumuyiwa Akinronle Oludayo, who is also going to make his own presentation, and Dr. Oluwatobi Stephen. Doctor, I will introduce Dr. Olumuyiwa appropriately when it's time for him to speak. He'll be the next person to speak after Professor. Professor, you can go ahead now, sir.
Okay, I hope you are seeing the slides, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. I will just speak to the environment, what happens to the environment after COVID-19. And the perspective we are looking at it is the post-COVID-19 issue. This is going to be my outline of speech. And just to lay preamble, COVID-19 is more like an earthquake that the effect is even rocking and shaking the earth. And definitely this will shape the whole world when we are actually out of the pandemic. And it will take time for us to recover. The recovery process will go through a full cycle throughout the world. Definitely in the world, we have the red zones presently, and then we have the green zones. And after the lockdown, or probably after the end of the COVID-19 issue, pandemic issue, there will definitely be a traffic towards the green zones. The green zones, because they have the facilities, as said by AAJS, they have the facilities to take out the earth issues. And when we even take a look at it, it's a long issue, respiratory issue. When you take the statistics, it cuts across the cold regions. And people are now saying that during that era, when the pandemic was at the highest, people were stressing the fact that it's cold season, it's cold region. But research has not established this, even though research is still ongoing concerning this, but there has not been any establishment whether it's only affecting the cold region. So as we have the rise in COVID-19 cases, we now have to favor cleanliness over sustainability, because sustainability of the environment becomes very paramount in order to have a good environmental issues solved. But now, we're now having cleanliness over that. It means we have not been doing what we're supposed to do before. And with all countries in Africa battling with COVID-19, interaction of humans with the ecosystem must be balanced. We must have to go out. We must have to interact. We must have to do our dailies. But if we don't balance this, there will definitely be a risk of another global lockdown. What are the things that are affected in terms of environmental issues? We see the air qualities. The air quality during the pandemic, the air quality improved. You could see from the graph from China, pollution, that's to tell you that we have a red zones. And then during the pandemic, that was January, when the virus spread to China, industries closed down. And then we're now having no red zone at all. So pollution, air pollution reduced, water quality improved, carbon emission dropped. So carbon monoxide emission fell. It fell rapidly because there is no trip, no flight, lockdown in place. And you see, this is what is called sustainability, biodiversity, which is essential in environmental issues. It is essential globally. So are we now saying that we should just continue like that? But we must also look at it after COVID-19, because that is what is even causing the climate issue. When we are looking at the climate issue and then we're now saying climate change, when we're supposed to have rain, rain is not falling. Climate change, depletion of ozone layer. No. We shouldn't go back to this after COVID-19. Are we now saying COVID-19 is a blessing to environment? But we must establish biodiversity. So let's look at the weather impact. The weather impact, as I said earlier on, all those dropped. The greenhouse gases effect dropped. But the issue is that we also have organic and inorganic waste shooting up. Why? People are at home, they are eating. People that couldn't eat at home, they have to go out, look for food by all means. And then those wastes are generated, nobody to pack them. That is part of biodiversity. Nobody to recycle them. And this issue will keep on going like that if the lockdown was not eased, so that we can interact with the environment. What are the indicators? You know, we said earlier that the temperature, can it curb the epidemic? No. As at the time we are having this interaction, research has not proved to us that temperature can curb it. I remember that time I watched a cartoon, and then somebody now sat in the sun and said, yes, he wants to heal himself of COVID-19. Temperature doesn't have effect on it because it's an internal issue. It's a long issue. So average temperature, minimum temperature, or maximum temperature have significant correlation with COVID-19 epidemic. So no matter the temperature, it will still thrive. So currently there is no scientific evidence that warm weather will suppress COVID-19. There is none yet. What are my recommendations? After COVID-19, are we saying COVID-19 is a blessing? No, but we must have what the perspective of biodiversity. The way we do things before, so that it won't affect the environment. You know, I don't want to go into the nitty-gritty of how COVID-19 came on board from China, Wuhan. Many people have said so many things about it. They were saying that it was synthetic. They fabricated the virus. Somebody said a lot. We have had a lot of news. And according to the first speaker, he said, the way we disseminate news, people just grab that news. But what I'm saying now is that we need to have what is called a biodiversity orientation to link our everyday activity with climate action and sustainable development goals. It is very important. That's the essence of having those goals, so that anything we are doing, it's not that I just finish eating, I just throw my food package somewhere for someone to pick. I should do the necessary things. It's not that I just want to dump my waste. I go to the river and I dump it there. So when you compare foreign countries, developed nations with Africa, I don't know, Africans, we just do things without, and when we get to foreign countries, we behave. When we come to environmental sustainability, we need to have that perspective, and it must continually be like that. Somebody will be driving his car and then throw things outside his car, not bothering on how that will be done. So it starts from our re-perspective as a personal biodiversity consciousness from individuals. to be able to do the right thing, to the right environment, and in the right way of doing it. Otherwise, we may call for another pandemic. Now, it's a popular saying, prevention is better than cure. We need to prevent another pandemic, because if we don't, now we can now see people having the perspective of social distancing. I don't want to catch, even though it may be a fun, I don't want to catch COVID-19. Many people are now going around with hand sanitizer. I even have it in my office. So if a student comes around, or if I have visitor, you must use it. Trying to prevent. People are now using nose mask. Personal hygiene. We must take it to the next level. Initially, many people are so dirty. But now, consciousness of personal hygiene is now coming on board. Telemedicine, localized clinics, treatment centers must also spring up after COVID-19. These are some of the things that affected the African countries. Many of these countries do not have facilities to even handle ordinary common diseases, talk less of a virus that the WHO now declares pandemic in nature. So now we should begin, after COVID-19, we should begin to look at having telemedicine and localized clinics in operation in our environment, so that at least we will have, before we know it, start developing, and then development will come into society. In the long term, it seems hopeful that sustainable practices will prevail when the pandemic ends. Everybody is hopeful. But let me just tell us, are we saying that the pandemic has ended? If the answer is yes, I go with you. But if your answer is no, I will also agree with you. If we don't do the right thing, if we don't do what we ought to do, if we don't have that biodiversity measure and consciousness of sustainable environment, cleaning it with the SDG goals, we may call for another one. And I pray that this will not happen to us again globally. I want to thank everyone. So even though COVID-19 is preventing public gatherings and events from taking place, but we can still have those events once we take all those measures. There will be slow emergence from the negative effect of COVID-19 in most African countries, as I said earlier, compared with Asian or developed countries, because of the greater investment that they have put into biotechnology and healthcare infrastructure. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Professor Ajanaku. That was a very, very thought-provoking presentation from you, sir. And you talked about us being having biodiversity orientation, and also that we need to be conscious of the environment. And personal hygiene cannot be overemphasized. If we don't want another experience of this kind of pandemic, we need to be conscious of this. And this is a wake-up call to everyone that are listening, and spread the news that if we don't want to experience this pandemic again, then we need to wake up and start taking care of our environment. Without wasting much time, I want to move quickly to the next speaker. He is Dr. Olumuyiwa Akinronle Oludayo. He is the principal consultant of Nathan Leadgate LLC, an organizational management practice focused on people resourcing, organization design and development, learning and strategy consulting. He is a member of the advisory boards of Construct Technology Limited, a real estate technology company, and Vital Sapiens Limited, a higher education management consulting company. Muyiwa holds a doctorate degree in industrial relations and human resource management from Africa's topmost university, which is Covenant University. He's a holder of human resource practitioner's license from the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria, where he is also an associate member. He's also a member of the Nigerian Institute of Training and Development. He will be speaking to us from the perspective of work-life balance and the workplace. Dr. Olumuyiwa, we welcome you, and with a show of raise hand, please let's welcome Dr. Oludayo Olumuyiwa Akinrole.
Thank you, Dr. Agbola. I'm very glad to be here, and I hope you can hear me, sir.
Yes, we can, loud and clear.
Okay, great. Thank you, Segun, for the introductions and the earlier times, all the earlier announcements you made, and thank you to AAJS for this privileged opportunity. I'll be speaking on the workplace and work-life balance in the light of our current experiences. My journey into work-life balance research started in 2009, thereabout, when I started my PhD. I have a wife, married to a wife that works in the bank. And at that time, I had her trying to balance between work and other non-work obligations that she had. And it became an interesting thing for me to study. I said to myself, let me even find out if I can support my wife, with research findings on how to balance her life. And that led me to starting to do a research in work-life balance, which culminated in my thesis for my PhD program, 2013-2014. Having said that, it's important to understand that we live in a world where there are multiple roles and obligations to all of us. Multiple roles, multiple obligations, and we have, at every point in time, we all are wearing different hats. And the new world that we are in today, where income is stretched, where resources are continuously scarce, people have had to engage in multiple opportunities. They deploy their competencies in multiple places so that they can get the best out of all of those competencies. So we are having people in developed countries, for example, working in many jobs. We're having families who are now dual career families. Husband is working, father is working, mother is working, wife is working, everybody working, just to be able to, meet up with the obligations that they have. And you find a man who is a husband, he's also a father, he's a son, he's an employer, his brother, he's so many things to so many people from his work and non-work environment. And so work and non-work domains. And so he has a lot of things that he's got to do. So you find out that the need for work-life balance can be said to be across four broad categories. Four broad categories. Number one is role overload. Role overload, right? And so this form of work-life conflict occurs when total demands on time and energy associated with prescribed activities of multiple roles are too great. We have too many roles to perform, and then it stretches our limited time resource and it depletes our energies. And so we have role overload as one of the elements of work-life conflict. Number two, element of work-life conflict that we have is work-to-family interferences. You realize that this type of conflict occurs when work demands and responsibilities make it more difficult for people to fulfill the family role responsibilities. Today, now we talk about the COVID-19 and the effects it has had on people. It's interesting to know that when people fall sick or have caught the virus, they need carers. And many people have had to become carers when they did not have the capacity to do so. And so when you have obligations to care for your family, for your children, for your spouse, for aged parents, for your dependents, there's a challenge there that you need to pay attention to. So work stresses at times spill over into the home environment and increase our conflict in family. Number three conflict we have is the family to work interference. There's work to family, where work enters into family. And there's family to work interference, where your family work makes it more difficult for you to do your work in itself. All right. Your family assignment makes it difficult for you to do your work, your official assignment. For example, you are unable to attend to your children. You're unable to attend to, in attending to your children, you're unable to do your work. And I give an example. Many of us have found ourselves during the lockdown having to work from home. I mean, for me, I had to do a lot of remote working. And in remote working, children were not going to school, but work was continuing. And so at the time, the children need your attention. In fact, there was a time that for my children, we had to subscribe to online classes. And in making them be able to sit down to manage the devices and the computers and all of those gadgets that they needed to work, you also are taken away from your work. And so in a bid to solve or to meet the family obligations, you are leaving out your leaving out your work obligations. So the fourth element of the work-life conflict is a caregiver strain. So caregiver strain here is a multi-dimensional construct that is defined in terms of the burdens in the caregiver's day-to-day lives. I mean, so in providing assistance to people who are in your non-work domains and in attending to the things that you have, you realize that you are strained, you're stretched. And so it's important from a personal perspective to look out for initiatives that can allow you balance work and life. And in balancing work and life here, our goal is not to say 50-50. Our goal is not to say you have 50-50. The goal is to say you are able to attend to these needs as they occur. Simply put, work-life balance initiatives will mean any benefits, any policies, company policies, or programs that can help you create a balance between the demands of your job and the healthy management of your life outside work. And so there are what we call formal work-life balance initiatives, and there are things we call the informal work-life balance initiatives. So one of the things that, and I'll list a few of them just for us to understand how organizations in these times are helping their employees to balance work and life. And I also try to identify some social support initiatives that you can begin to explore in your individual life. Number one is on-site childcare. On-site childcare. There are organizations that have brought creches. They brought creches into their offices. So I know GTB, Guaranteed Trust Bank PLC at the point, have creches in their offices. And so that allows their staff to bring their children to work and then put them in a crèche, so you don't have to go far to pick up your child. You're not closing early because you want to go to the daycare to pick up your child. You know, that's an initiative that allows the mother and child to be equally balanced and catered for. The second is what we call the emergency childcare assistance. You know, there's what we call the concierge services, where people run errands for you. Some organizations have programs that people run errands for them. You want to send somebody to the grocery shop, you want to send someone to run errands for you, formalized, not informal that you send your cleaner or you send your stuff. The organizations are provided for it that people can do these things for you. Another thing that we have enabling you to manage work and life is flexible work arrangements. Today we talk about remote working. Today I'm in the office, and a number of us may be attending this program today from the comfort of our homes or from a different location entirely. I have a couple of friends who currently are outside the country, but their offices are in Nigeria. And the reason they are outside the country and the offices are in Nigeria is because, and they're working, the reason is their offices have said, we're going 100% remote. And they said to themselves, why wait in Nigeria? Why wait in Nigeria? Let me go outside the country and be there, and I can work from home. So they're doing that. So there's flexible work arrangements. You can have what we call compressed work week. So instead of working Monday to Friday, organizations are provided that you can work Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, or you can compress everything and do all your work between Monday and Wednesday. You don't come to work Thursday and Friday. So we also have what we call policies of organizations, formal policies. So parental leave policies. And thankfully, Lagos State government in Nigeria has paternity leave now, such that the man can also go away from work to provide support to his family, right? So there is what we call the family leave policy. So there are policies there. And there are other leaves such as educational leave, community service leave, self-funded leave, and all of that. And there are also what we call employee assistance programs. This morning, I was having a conversation with a colleague of mine who was bereaved. She lost her mom in the course of work. And our organization has an opportunity for her to see a grievance counselor so that she can also be useful to herself and to the office, all right? So there are opportunities like that. Let's talk about the social support opportunities that we have, and I'll then quickly talk about why organizations to design some of these programs in about 2 minutes that I have. Social support policies. Family is a social support system. You see, many a time we don't know what we have because we don't know those we know. We don't know what we have until we have asked those that we know. Many people are unable to do more because they have not asked those around them. So there's support from your family, there's support from your neighbors, there's support from your colleagues, there's support from people within your associations that you can take advantage of to be able to balance work and life. Growing up, when I come back from school and my parents are not around, there's a neighbor that they will put me under. There's a neighbor, they'll say, go and stay in this neighbor's house. And while we come back, because the neighbor is available and you're not constraining the burden to that neighbor. So there are social support mechanisms for balancing work and life, even in these times that we live in today. So let me quickly talk about why a workplace should consider work-life balance programs. Okay, so number one, you're going to be attracting new employees. If I know that this organization will enable me find balance for my work and my life, I want to come there. It helps organizations to retain their staff. It helps to improve the morale. It reduces sicknesses or absenteeism due to sicknesses in the offices. And maybe one more, it decreases stress and burnout. You see, we work and work and work and work, just like Dr. Ada was saying. Many of us don't pay attention to our bodies. So it's important to do that. And when people see your organization as one that institutes work-life balance initiatives, they want to come to you. You attract them, you decrease stress levels, you improve the morale, you reduce sickness and absenteeism, you enhance working relationships within colleagues, and you do more. Finally, Dr. Agbola, let me just add one more thing to this conversation. How does a workplace implement these initiatives? Is it not enough? One of the things I found out in my research was that it's not enough for organizations to provide these policies. You've got to measure it such that you can know if people are taking advantage of it. What I realized when I did my research, I studied the top 5 banks in Nigeria, and I realized that many of them had work-life balance initiatives and policies and programs, but many of their employees were not using it. So companies were investing, but the people were not maximizing. They were not drawing value from it. So it's important to know that as you try to institute these initiatives, on-site childcare, concierge services, elder care initiatives, family leave policies, flexible work arrangements, employee assistance programs, and all of those things, fitness facilities, as you institute them in your organization, ensure that your employees are taking advantage of them, making an appraisal issue for them. That if you don't go for this, for example, is an appraisal issue, it takes some point away from you. So having said that, I think with the world that we live in is a world where multiple roles and obligations will not cease. However, we need to be able to lean on formal support structures and social support structures, formal in our organizations, and for employers to be able to make these things available for their employees, and social support programs or social support initiatives where we lean on people that are outside our work environment that can support us to achieve our goals. Our dreams are many, and we cannot say because they are many, we'll lose on the places where we have obligations. When we get support, we will always be able to do so much more. One of us is not better than the rest of us, and collaboration is what makes the dream work. And so I hope I've been able to contribute a bit to the conversation today, that the new world is such that many things will continue to demand our time, but with support from our organizations and our people, we can achieve all. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Luda, for that insightful presentation. I won't say much for now. I want to leave that to a later time when we'll be able to have question and answers and be able to dwell more on what you have said. I'll quickly move to Dr. Oluwatobi Stephen. Dr. Oluwatobi Stephen is an economist, and he's the curator for Hebron Startup Lab in Covenant University, where he manages and helps students spin off their ideas and all of that sort. And also, he's the founder of EduStart Global, and there where we talk about education using new technologies and paradigms for pedagogies for teaching and learning. And I won't waste much time. I would like to invite Dr. Oluwatobi Stephen, who will be speaking from the perspective of education and technology regarding the topic we are discussing today. Dr. Oluwatobi, please, you have some, I don't want to cut your time, but I believe you will be able to manage the time for us. Thank you. Dr. Oluwatobi Stephen.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate, and I also want to appreciate the organizers of this program. Permit me to also recognize and appreciate my very close ones, Dr. Oludayo, who just finished his presentation. I enjoyed the session. Thank you so much. I want to appreciate Professor Ajanaku also, who shared with us on the environment, as well as Dr. Daise. Thank you so much for the contribution. And Shegu, thank you for the coordination of this. I deeply appreciate that. Dr. Mayor, thank you for having me here. So I'll just share this. I was thinking of something to serve as a guide. So let me just share a deck that will guide what I'm going to share here. And I may not have to cover all, but I'll just use that as a guide for what I'm going to share. Please confirm you can see my slides, please.
Yes, we can see it.
Perfect. Okay, so beyond COVID from the education perspective, my thinking is, so what's post-COVID? Because a number of the issues and challenges that we have been facing actually have existed before COVID-19. What COVID just came to do was to kind of like accelerate and amplify the problems. So, I mean, there was poverty, there was hunger, the environment, had its own issue. So COVID simply came to accelerate that, all the issues from hunger to poverty, work-life balance, environmental issues. It just came to accelerate that process. So the problems have existed there. And just like we've heard in the previous conversations, the pandemic simply came to kind of like test how ready we are to deal with our issues and our concerns. And we are humans. We are people who have creative abilities. So how are we going to use such creative abilities to address the issues that we are facing right here? So looking at the continent as a whole, Africa is considered the youngest continent, having those within the ages of 0 and 25 constituting 60% of the population. And if we're going to be able to say, how are we going to secure the future of the continent and how that the continent Africa can add value to the world at large, then we should begin to think of how we can invest massively in this largest fraction of the Africa's population, considering that even the continent is the youngest in the world right now, 60%. Now, we can see that 60% as a liability, or we can see the 60% as an asset. But it's going to be a liability as long as we leave them the way they are. But if we begin to invest in them in terms of education and quality healthcare, then we can consider them assets. Because we might say, okay, 6% of the population in Africa, they are too much. How can we reduce the population? Maybe it's not about the size of the population. Maybe it's about the quality of the population. So for instance, if we have this 60%, maybe each of them is a Bill Gates. Will the population be the problem, or it's about the quality of the population? So this is what helps us understand the importance of education and why we need to invest in the young population of Africa. So how have we been able to do this over the years? If we go back in time in history, development of economies started first of all through agriculture. So fortune and wealth had been created by economies through agriculture, right? And from that means then we started to dovetail into another kind of economy called the industrial economy. I mean, the agrarian economy, achieved some results, but not so much results. In fact, as at that time, it got to a stage where population growth kind of like exceeded the rate of food production. I mean, this was the era where one of the top economists in the world, as at that time, Thomas Malthus, he said, and in fact, still now, he called the prophet of doom. he prophesied that that humans will soon start eating humans because the level of population growth is exceeding the rate at which food is being produced. But thankfully, we got ourselves into another age, or rather, this problem triggered another solution, which led us to the industrial age, when man started to invent and to create new things to accelerate the level of food production. So as a result of this, we didn't have to fall into the prophecy that Thomas Malthus actually put in place, meaning we're able to actually increase the level of food production to exceed level of population growth. And this is because of education. And now we're in another era that is beyond the industrial era. So the industrial era is the era of mass production. And so it was the era that helped us to, create new tools, equipment, and all those things that help us to achieve mass production. And education was designed in a way to sort that issue, to address such gaps, and to be able to meet the needs of the world as at that time. But we're in a new world right now, and it's called the knowledge economy. It's a different kind of world. The rules that govern this world, they are slightly different from the rules that govern the agrarian world and the industrial world. And I will explain that using the stats in the next slide here. So if we look at these statistics here, it shows the age of tech. So let's look at 2006. 2006, the top most valuable companies in the world in terms of market capitalization are mostly oil companies. So if you see here, we have ExxonMobil 2006, we have British Petroleum, BP, we have Royal Dutch Shell, all three oil companies. The other categories of companies here, we have a conglomerate here, that's General Electric. We have a knowledge-based company here, that's Microsoft, and we have a bank, that's Citigroup. Now, fast forward 10 years into the future, 2016, we have the most valuable companies in the world 10 years after our knowledge-based companies. Apple, Alphabet is the parent company for Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, and one oil company. So what does this tell us? And what does this also tell us about where fortune is being created, where value is being created, and what kind of talents do we need in this age? And what are the kinds of skills we need to start developing in higher education institutions or in schools or platforms of education to be able to meet the gaps in this particular age? Let's now see what happened during the pandemic in terms of statistics. So we're presently using Zoom now, and Zoom, the value of Zoom is approximately at $47.37 billion US in terms of market cap. Now, December 2019, in terms of the number of users in millions, they had about 10. April 2020, which is just about a few months after the pandemic was declared, they had about 300 million users. Now, the entire value of Zoom is equal to the combination of value of all these airlines: Southwest, Delta, United, AAJS, Lufthansa, American Airlines, and and Air France, as well as KLM. Now, these are companies that have massive, huge infrastructure. Aircraft in themselves are massive, huge infrastructure. Zoom is simply an app. It's just an application that is built with the brains of people. I mean, this also explains where is the value in this kind of world and what kind of value is being created in this age and what kind of era are we in. So from this that I've shown, it's just clear that we should be able to understand where exactly is the world that we are in. Like I said, the challenges have existed before. COVID simply came to accelerate all those things we used to call the future. Many years ago, we say, in the future we'll do this, the future of education, the future of tech, the future of that. COVID simply came to accelerate and bring us quickly into that future. And so now we are in it. The idea now is how are we ready and how we're going to be able to invest in people who will be able to make this happen. And that's what makes education really, really important. So education is meant to create solution. So if we're going to achieve a particular status in terms of the economy, then we need to be able to develop the necessary manpower to be able to achieve that. So now that we know that we're in the knowledge economy, how should we develop or create a knowledge-based economy or an innovation-driven economy? That as a target will also guide us to say, what are the kinds of skills, manpower that we need to be able to develop or achieve an innovation-based or driven economy? In that case, if we are clear about the kind of manpower or the quality of skills, then that will help us to design what's the kind of education that we need to design to help us to create the kind of skills or manpower to help us build the kind of knowledge economy or innovation-driven economy that we need to build. And this is so crucial because, it's about people. Things don't innovate themselves. The pandemic cannot solve itself. It's people. So everything is still going to depend on people. But the question is, what's the quality of the people? And this is what makes education important. Like I said, the problems have existed before now. COVID simply came to accelerate and to amplify a number of these problems. What we are saying basically is that we need to begin to think about education and how education can bail us out in the future. Because if the largest chunk of the population is within the ages of 0 and 25. In the case of Nigeria, the fraction is even a lot higher. It's going to close to 80%. So if you come into Nigeria, which is presently the largest Black nation in Africa, it's apparent and clear that the fraction there is roughly about almost 80%. Well, Africa generally is about 60%. That is those within the ages of 0 and 25. So lots of attention needs to be really put in to address issues here so we can invest in it. So as I begin to wrap up, what vehicle will help us get there quickly? What vehicle will help us achieve this future? So the statistics that we've seen so far has helped us to see that we're in the age of tech. If that's the case, there's no point educating our children for the world that no longer exists. Why is it that there's a rising level of graduate unemployment? That should send a signal. That is, the more we're trying to invest in our children, the more we're trying to invest in people, invest in education, and go to schools, the more the level of graduate unemployment is on the rise. So something obviously is wrong with what we call education, or the kind of education. And from the stats that we saw in the age they were in, 10 years after, we saw, the era of oil companies, fintechs, financial organizations, and now fast forward 10 years later, we are seeing knowledge-based companies that are leveraging a lot on technology and innovation for survival beyond just tangibles and all that. So our education needs to be designed in a way that will get there. So look at this various means of transportation. Like I usually use it as an analogy. I can actually get to South Africa by various means from Nigeria. I'm presently in Nigeria right now. So if I'm going to get to South Africa by walking, I'll actually get there by walking. I could get there by cycling. I could get there by driving, by flying, or even by rocket, courtesy of the work that SpaceX has done so far. But the question is, if I go by walking, when am I going to get there? If I go by cycling, when am I going to get there? If I go by driving, when will I get there? Compared to if I go by flying or by using a rocket. So we need to consider the vehicles. First of all, what I'm going to say is that the content of education has to change to suit the kind of future that we're trying to achieve, while not discarding the things that will give us the foundationals, like the mathematics, the theories, the foundation we need to build on, right? The model also has to really change, right? But a combination of innovation and entrepreneurship into the whole picture will help us, achieve the things we want to achieve. So if we're going to really use a faster vehicle, then we need to create high-grade agents that will help us accomplish that. And that's only possible with education that gives attention to knowing what this present age really is about and what the future is. And that's basically the future of tech. The future is tech and innovation and the ability to also have people who can see problems differently. So the role of the educator itself even has to change because now that we have access to knowledge beyond what it used to be. In the agrarian era, for instance, now knowledge was vested in a few persons. You can't access knowledge so much. The industrial era helped us to scale knowledge because, the printer was invented. So knowledge was taken from the authorities and they put them on paper. And so people could buy books and also learn from people that they couldn't physically meet, but learn a lot from such kind of persons. Now, the age of tech, we have this tool called the internet, where both the student and the teacher has access to the same source. So it's not about, whether you're the teacher or you're the student. It's about who is able to amass this knowledge, interpret it, and use it more effectively. And in some cases, we've seen students do that a lot more even than teachers and educators. This simply explains that the role of the educator even has to change. And these are some of the changes that we'll see, happening now. So if you go to YouTube now, you see many persons. Some of them don't even have formal degrees, or neither did they, go into any form of formal education, yet they are adding massive value through YouTube. They are adding massive value through social media. They are making massive fortunes. A number of them have become investors. This makes one question, these models that we've created, they worked at a particular time, but somehow COVID has helped us to shake up a lot of things, and now we have to start questioning some of these things because if we don't, a number of persons will have to be disrupted all the way because change is just imminent. Someone is presently developing something that will render what we're currently doing obsolete, and so we are either being the ones instigating the change, or someone is actually disrupting the change, and the change will obviously happen. As I begin to conclude, some thoughts here is what skills are needed here in this age. Education institutions should begin to think about that. Since we are in the knowledge era, the innovation era, what skills are we supposed to cultivate? So a number of my students during the, so I'm presently in Hebron Startup Lab now, and the number of my students, I just had to interview some of them on what they did during the lockdown while they were in the house. And a number of them told me of how much they made in money, particularly those of them who are developers, social media specialists, designers. I mean, on the average, some of them were earning like, 2 million, 3 million. I mean, in Naira, these are students who have not graduated yet, and there's huge demand for them. Some of them told me that they had to request to stop the work they were doing because now they are back in school. They are wrapping up, a few things so that they can have their examination and move into the next session. And for those that will graduate, they will have to graduate. And there is huge demand for them. For some of the companies, they appeal to them that they should just try, and even if it's, if they could work over weekends and all that. And this just explains that there's a huge demand for certain kinds of skills, while we are seeing the level of graduate unemployment on the rise. So we have to be very objective and throw our biases away and begin to, poke and deal with issues that must be dealt with. So what platforms are there to learn, and where is the new classroom? I believe the new classroom is mobile and lots of mobility. I heard Dr. Luda talking about work-life balance now, and he talked about a number of his friends who are, the offices are in Nigeria, but they're working in UK. The future is mobility. Learning is the same way. Many people are learning a lot more from YouTube than they're learning from their physical classroom. There are many students who have known a lot more than their educators because they have exposed themselves to knowledge because of the internet beyond what their educators have done. So it's not about titles anymore, it's about what education is. And so if I'm going to say what's the future for education, then I'm simply saying give access to education by giving people access to the tools, platforms, ICT infrastructure such as the internet, where they could access the pool of knowledge, learn the things they want to learn, make the mistakes, and begin to build things from them. There are lots of how-tos that they could learn from. So because that's where the knowledge bank is. So let me just wrap up here, and I look forward to the question and answer session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Oluwatobi, for that awesome presentation. And now we could see how important we need to move the education system of this country forward so that we can catch up with what is going on around the world. Mr. Shego, I don't know, do we have questions? You're on mute.
Yes. Well, we really don't have a question. I just want to appreciate our presenters. I think everyone here was actually glued to the seats to listen to everything. They are all very relevant presentations, and they are very important to the direction that this country is going to be taking from now on. Thank you so much, Dr. Adaize Ore, Professor Kolawole Ajanoku, we appreciate you. Dr. Olumiwa Wale, we thank you. Dr. Stephen Oluwatobi, we appreciate you so much. And Dr. Agbola, we so much appreciate you. Thank you so much. So we are going to progress in this conference. As we move forward, I just want to bring in briefly the president of the African Association for Japanese Studies and the convener of this conference, Dr. Adedoyin Agwaro. She will brief us quickly before we move into the plenary. Thank you, everybody. Doctor, speak now.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Dr. Wola, that was a very insightful, brilliant, and encouraging session. I think it takes us forward in our journey to unraveling the mysteries behind COVID-19 and what to do going forward. So quickly, I would like to just speak to the panels that we're going to have now. We have had to make some adjustments. Now we're having the first panel, and it will be a plenary, so all of us will be here. Dr. Adeshina Afolayan is chairing that panel. All the members of the panel, I think this will be shared maybe briefly on the page, already have notification on their phones that they're to, or their emails that they're to get ready for the session right now. So we go to the panel, and the panel is Climate Outlook in Africa and in Japan. Dr. Afolayan, I'm sure you're here. After that, we go to the second and the third panel, where we will split into two groups. So I think Dr. Afolayan, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to welcome everybody. I would like to welcome as many that are on the panel. I have Kalejaye Oluwakemi. Is Kalejaye around? Is Kalejaye around?
I think so.
Okay. We also have Sunday Oluwagbamila Dawodu. Is he available? Adepoju. Oh, okay. Adepoju. Is Adepoju around?
Yes, Sunday Dawodu is here. Can you hear me?
Oh, good. I can hear you. Thank you very much. Adepoju. Is Adepoju available? Okay. Iziguzo, Destiny. Is Iziguzo around? Okay. Gracious Ojebun. Is Gracious Ojebun there?
Yeah, I can see her.
Okay, I think I saw her earlier too.
I'm here. Thank you. I'm here.
Oh, good. Welcome. And Nasir, T.O., Dr. Nasir. Is Dr. Nasir around?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. So we have just 6 presenters, and I'm glad to welcome you all to this wonderful panel. We have various insights from literature, from cultural studies, and on and on and on. And I'm very sure that we're going to have a very wonderful time together. We have just 1 hour, and so I'm going to assign 7 minutes each to each of the presenters, so that we'll be able at the end of the day to take some questions. So for those who have questions, please just send it through the chat room, and presenters can then harvest the questions that belong to them, and we can then move on. I have some time, maybe a few minutes after all the presentations, to speak to those part of the questions that we consider to be cogent. It definitely will not be possible for us to answer all questions that our paper will generate. So without wasting much time, I would like to invite Kalejaye Oluwakemi Abiola, Ecophobic Rhetorics and Asian Industrialization, a critical analysis of Magian's The Dark Road. Dr. Kalejaye, are you there? Kalejaye, are you there?
Can you
okay, if
Kalejaye
Kalejaye is not,
yes, but she would be joining us shortly.
okay. So let's go to the second presenter, Sunday Oluwagbamila Dawodu. He will be speaking to us on collapsed environment in Vicente Gusin's Love My Planet. Are you there, Dawodu?
Yes, a minute, please.
Okay.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Can you all hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. No, it's not clear, but I can hear you.
Hello, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Hello.
There are statics there.
Am I clear? Am I clear?
Not really. There are statics.
Yeah, I guess the network where I am is not so good. It's been raining.
Oh, okay.
I feel like maybe that's a problem.
Probably the mic, yes.
I don't know, can you hear me now?
I
Is it
can
better
still
now?
hear you, but there are still statics in the background.
Yeah, I have signal here that my network is not stable.
Oh,
I think it's because of the weather here. It's been raining very much where I am.
Okay. Well, we have to go with you like that. So you have 7
Okay,
minutes. Please.
Okay, very quickly, I'm talking about, I'm examining literary representation of ecological imbalances and the structure that is being witnessed, most especially in the Niger Delta region of Nigeria, as a microcosm of environmental imbalances in Nigeria. I'll be looking at these in Vincent Eduson's Law of My Planet. I make to state that contemporary scholars and critics, even though they have shown so much concern and interest into our socio-political, gender, cultural issues, but they're also beginning to show much interest for the interaction between human and the physical environment. Most especially as this interest or concerns most especially pernicious impacts of negative effects of these interactions. Melinda Kalinka in 2010 laments that these various forms of environmental collapse are the consequences of direct effects of human perturbations on the environment. Now, Ahmed Ibrahim in 2002 had earlier been able to point out to us that yes, there are several factors responsible for environmental collapse, but that human beings play a major role in environmental collapse. And that's one of the reasons I'm looking at the role of human beings, most especially when it comes to oil extraction in the Niger Delta region of Nigeria. The Niger Delta is very important because it is
Yeah, please keep going.
So, 2013 described the Niger Delta region as a reservoir of priced resources, vital and wealth, religious crude oil deposit. So, when we look at all of these things, one could say that the Niger Delta of Nigeria, which has been supporting Nigeria economy, should have been one of the most catered for environment in Nigeria. Unfortunately, as we all know, it is one of the most, it's one region that is suffering one of the most environmental degradation in Nigeria. Of course, what I'm trying to say is not peculiar to the Nigeria region alone. It is almost every part of Nigeria that will witness one form of environmental degradation or the other. For example, in Lagos State, or in areas of like all these coastal areas, Lagos State, State, and so on and so forth, we have pensions for what I call mangrove reclamation of wetland areas, which we use because of our money, which we use most of the time for urban farming. And so as a result of just 2-3 hours of rain, most of the time we witness unnecessary flow. So we're looking at all of these. So these are the things I'm looking at. It is my belief that in using Vincent Eduson's Law of My Planet, that it would help to be able to project Vincent Eduson as a writer who's not just concerned about the social, political, and economic emancipation of the people of Niger Delta, but a foremost environmentalist who cares for the creation of enduring symbiosis between man and the physical environment. Yes, I'm also using eco-criticism as one of the major literary theory for this study. Eco-criticism, as we know, actually describes its application of ecological concept, the study of literature or the use of literary tools to explain environmental phenomena. Eco-criticism has gone through so many places. beginning most especially from America. It has gone to UK where it is known as the case study, and eventually to countries, the Asian countries like Japan and Africa. Of course, there has been arguments initially, most especially by William Schumacher and Robert Kiyosaki, that Africa and most of these Asian countries do not have what actually could be called eco-criticism. But then it has later on been known that eco-criticism is not totally new to Africa, in the sense that Africans have been dealing with what we can call nature studies. And we can find these in works like the work of Ken Seruliwa, Chinua Achebe, Wole Soyinka, Ademola Da Silva, and so on. These are people that they have written from the perspective of nature study, even though they may not call it eco-criticism per se. And we also have the same thing when we're talking about the Japanese writers like Yusumari Kawabati, Ruth Osaki, Solani, Narangia, and Nomara Miyo, and so on. These are people that have been able to put their works, have been able to use the theme of eco-criticism in their work. So what we're just trying to say here is that eco-criticism, yes, in a way it is new, but to some of these countries like Africa, like Japan, and other Asian countries, they've been talking about
2 more minutes. I'm sorry. You have just 2 more minutes.
Yeah?
2 more minutes. Yeah?
All right. So very quickly, instances of eco-criticism in what we call Vicente Buson, or instances of collapse environment in Vicente Buson form include eco-fatalities through pollution and contamination of the environment. We see instances where, for example, in page 228, a Buson talks about pollution, the people of the Yenge community having to bathe and drink from polluted water, and yesterday causing them some sicknesses and diseases. We also have the problem of deforestation and loss of mangrove forests, also highlighted in this Buson Love My Planet. Again, we can see this in page 160, where it said that Toy City, the city of light, where there was no electricity, where there was no lack of electricity 24/7, stand off from where wetland supplied running water to the community. So we also have other instances, eco damage to oil spills. It also comments on the issue of oil spills, especially caused by terrorists. Even though they are trying to make statements, but unfortunately they engage in eco-terrorism. We can also find it in page 49, where it says, for example, that a major traffic event pointing at eco-terrorists has come to environmental collapse. The next day, SJ, that is a terrorist group, destroyed 3 oil rigs and blew up several oil pipelines, which caused major pollution to the environment. So let me conclude very quickly that from all of this, we can conclude that the Buson Love My Planet is actually a quintessential eco-critic who wants to convince its readers to see the need to nurture and protect the environment. And the time to do it is now, from the way you do it. Because if mankind fails to put an end to the menace of the environment, degradation and pollution and degradation environment will certainly put an end to humankind. That is the CIVA 2009, page 21. Thank you very much.
Dr. Dawodu, we want to appreciate that deployment of eco-criticism to understanding the roles that humans play in the degradation of the environment. That is a very live issue at the moment, especially given the state of the Niger Delta of Nigeria. Thank you so very much. Without wasting time, we want to see whether Kalejaye is around now. Is Kalejaye with us yet? Okay. I would like to call Adepoju. Adepoju, are you there? Adepoju?
Yes, sir. Okay. Is it for...
So it's you have the floor.
Good morning, sir. Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning, everybody.
Welcome. Good afternoon. Good morning. Good morning.
Please, I just want to ask, is this for the presentation on?
You may share your screen. You may share your paper, please.
Yeah, you are supposed to present now. COVID-19 institutionalizing the production of personal protective equipment.
Okay, good.
Yep.
I'm coming, sir. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Sals and Mass. I'm David Love Okoyemi. I'm presenting on behalf of my mentor, Dr. Mrs. Adepoju, and David Love. The title of our presentation is COVID-19, institutionalizing the production of personal protective equipment for safety of health workers through bilateral relations between Nigeria and Japan. Pandemics are always rattling and deadly for humanity, from the Black Deaths of 13th century to COVID-19 in 2020. And COVID-19 was first discovered in Wuhan in China and was officially reported to the WHO on the 31st of December 2019 and was declared a pandemic March 2020 this year. As at the end of August, we have more than 25.9 million positive cases of coronavirus throughout the world. And coronavirus is very deadly because of its high mode of transmission from touching of surfaces that have been contaminated through sneezes and coughs. One can get COVID-19. However, over 18.2 million people have recovered worldwide as at the end of August 2020, according to the WHO weekly update. This brings to the limelight the significance and the importance of health workers, who are always frontline workers in the fight against any kind of pandemic, COVID-19 inclusive. However, as the world depends on health workers to fight COVID-19 for humanity, health workers also relies on personal protective equipment as a shield for them also to fight against COVID-19. So during the course of this research, we generated the following problem statement. Goals: 1, PPE shortages and unavailability is a threat to the lives of health workers, which has led to thousands of Nigerian health workers getting infected with COVID-19. Also, PPE shortage for health workers has also led to many patients left unattended to due to fear of contracting COVID-19. And it has also brought to the limelight Nigerian low manufacturing capability due to failure to manufacture locally, unlike Japan. And also, there are lacks of institutional solutions and policies for PPE production, not just because of this current pandemic, but also because of future pandemic. So this statement of problems are led to the following objectives. 1, to examine the extent of PPE shortages for health workers in Nigeria and Japan. 2, to identify causes of PPE shortages in Nigeria. 3, to assess the extent of how Nigeria and Japan have institutionalized PPE production. And 4, to evaluate the role of government in institutionalizing PPE for health workers in the light of the Japan-Nigeria Business Facilitation Council bilateral relation. A comprehensive literature review was done looking at the PPE overview of PPE productions, bilateral relations between Nigeria and Japan, and the JMBFC Council, and also how to institutionalize PPE institutionalization using institutional theory. This study utilized qualitative research methodologies, which involves collecting and analyzing data, mostly non-numeric data, to understand opinions, experience, and concept for deeper insight and scientific inferences. Also, most of our journals and reports guidelines that we use, we are gotten from scholarly databases such as Scopus, Google Scholars, and Open Science. And these are our findings and discussions. 1, on the objective 1, looking at the extent of PPE shortages for health workers in Nigeria, we discovered that PPE shortages among health workers in Nigeria was very, very severe and has led to avoidable contraction of COVID-19 and death of health workers in the country. It has also led to abandonment of severely ill patients. We discovered that many patients were left unattended to because health workers were not protected with PPE, and they couldn't treat those patients because they are afraid of contracting coronavirus from those patients. So there are many cases of death because patients were not treated, and that was due to lack of PPE for health workers. In Japan, PPE shortages was quickly solved within a month due to local productions of PPE. Although their health workers suffered discriminations, and some of them were ostracized. And our research also discovered that the major PPEs needed for Nigeria are N95 respiratory masks, protective gowns, and face shield. And we're not talking about the cloth masks, so to say, which is now anybody is doing that. We're talking about PPEs that would protect health workers and will also enable them to fight against COVID-19. Whereas in Japan, the major PPE needed was protective suit, and it was even improvised by the use of raincoats and garbage bag, according to the research work of CATO 2020. And two, objectives looking at the causes of shortages of PPE. One of the major causes of shortage of PPE is Nigerian low manufacturing capabilities. The findings of DEBA 2020, Shola 2020, also brought to the limelight that the manufacturing capability of Nigeria is very low, and the pandemic also revealed that to the world, that we couldn't produce locally, and this is one of the major shortages of PPE in Nigeria, and we can't be depending upon the world for donations of PPEs, and most of these donations are very costly, and their quality is also in question. Another cause of PPE shortages is also international bans across different economies, thereby making PPE importation very difficult. And this would have not been the case if Nigeria has a high manufacturing capability. And also the failure of imagination and lack of preparation in Nigeria health systems. We are just trying to implement laws for pandemic after we have gone through Ebola, we have gone through flu and other diseases. So there is no, the causes of PPE shortages also shows that we lack the failure of imaginations and the lack of preparation from our government perspective. In Japan, PPE shortages there was PPE shortages which was caused by the overwhelming cases of COVID-19, but it was quickly solved due to the local production of PPE. 3, how Nigeria and Japan have been able to institutionalize PPE production. In Nigeria, our institutional effort is very, very low. Apart from many people producing close masks, there are about two or three companies that are producing PPE in Nigeria, and the one government agencies, which is the Defense Industry Corporation of Nigeria, producing PPEs. So this shows that our institutional effort in the production of PPE to shield our health workers in the fight against any pandemic is very low, unlike in Japan. Japan's institutional effort is very, very high in a manufacturing capability, and it has sent them in collaborations with UNICEF, in collaboration with the United Nations and WHO to donate PPEs to other countries like Laos and Kosovo. And also the fourth objective, the role of governmental interventions in institutionalizing PPE for health workers using the JMBFC bilateral regulations. We discovered that Japan is the only manufacturing PPE manufacturing country that the government can intervene in partnership with for PPE production, and this is due to the following reason: our similar pattern of in COVID-19 cases, and Japan's patent for quality products, close proximity to China. China accounts for 50% of PPE production throughout the world. And the question would be why Japan and not China? One, our findings reveals was that apart from the bilateral relationship between Nigeria and China, which is very, very high, now putting our health system on that bilateral relationship where we have options that are very good, better than that, will be a wish. So China will be very good, but our existing bilateral relationships with them in terms of rail, education, constructions will be very, very good. Even also considering international politics and dynamics on them also. We want to risk our healthcare system on among power players of the world. And also, Japan is a strategic.
2 more minutes, sir. 2 more minutes, sir.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Also, Japan is a strategic PPE distributor in Asia and Europe. And also, finally, one of the major reasons for our partnership with Japan is the unexplored and the new JMBFC platform. This platform was brought to fore last year at the TICA 2019 by President Muhammadu Buhari and Prime Minister Abe in Japan. And they brought about this council to promote trade and investment. And looking at the objectives of this council, Objective 3 and 6 are bilateral leverage for Nigeria to intervene and institutionalize local production of PPE. And these two objectives should be brought in to bring together actual and potential PPE manufacturers or companies that has the capacity to manufacture PPE in both countries through a private partnership. Due to much research, and we recommended 12 strategies for institutionalizing PPE for health workers in Nigeria, not just because of this current pandemic, but also because of future pandemic. One, we propose that there should be a collation of patients, the type of illness that patients currently have, the type of PPE required, and the quantity of PPE to be used for future projection of required PPE. And this should also be categorized as pandemic period and non-pandemic period to cater for future needs. And also there should be a collation of health workers required and used during the COVID-19 pandemic and before the COVID-19 pandemic to ascertain required health workers for future outbreaks. And we also propose that engineering students in Nigerian institutions should be tasked with researches that deals with production of different types of PPE. And especially the graduating students, it could be a final year project work that will ensure that local production of PPEs, so we won't depend on the world again for donations. And if our economies are closed, there are traveling bans across the world, we won't have to lose our health workers and also lose our citizens in the fight against any pandemic. And also, the JMBFC should include representatives from the Manufacturing Association of Nigeria, Small and Medium Scale Development Agencies, SMEDAN, Nigeria Content Development and Monitoring Board, and representatives from the Ministry of Health. And lastly, there should be an act of the National Assembly called the Nigeria Emergency Production Act, which is similar to the United Nations, to the United States Defense Production Act of 1941 and 1942. This act will empower the president to mobilize domestic resources, both financial and material, for production of needed equipment during pandemic, wars, and similar events. And in conclusion, we concluded that PPE have personal protective equipment have a tripartite benefit to the healthcare system of any nation. And these benefits include protecting frontline health workers, reducing health-related casualties of patients, and a competent boosters for health workers. And this benefits makes the local production of PPE vital to the sustenance of a nation's economic development and growth. Because in our findings, we discovered that production of PPE will place Nigeria as a strategic manufacturer and a strategic distributor of PPE in Africa. Because African continent and Middle East currently account for 6% of PPE production throughout the whole world. Therefore, institutionalizing the production of PPE using Japan-Nigeria bilateral relationship through the Japan-Nigeria Business Facilitation Council will be an economic catalyst in the Nigerian manufacturing industry, will protect our healthcare workers and save us in future pandemic, and also increase Nigeria human capital development. Thank you for listening. God bless. Thank you very much, everybody.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. David Love. We appreciate you. I will implore, while we wait for the chairman of this panel, he will soon join us again. I will implore all participants to pick their pen and note their questions, or maybe they should put it in the chat room now so that we'll respond to it later. It's good to put your question in the general chat room so that we can all see what is there. So we move on to the next paper without further delay. The next paper is going to be presented by Mrs. Kalejaye Oluwakemi Abiola. The paper is Ecophobic Rhetorics and Asian Industrialization, a critical analysis of Margian's The Dark Road. So, are you there, Ma?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Please go ahead.
I'm sorry for taking your time.
Yes,
I was
and we have to keep to time going forward, please, because we have a lot of presentations. So you have 7 minutes.
okay. The title of my paper is Ecophobic Rhetorics and Asian Industrialization, a critical analysis of Margian's Dark Road. I'll be taking the paper in this way. The introduction, if we look at the state of globalization and industrialization in the entire world, going by the Asian trust to maintain first worldism, we notice that there is an alteration with the natural world. And this alteration has caused an instability in the ecosystem. Now, the thrust of this paper is to examine how has Asian industrialization and globalization, how has it affected the ecosystem or the natural world? The statement of the problem of this paper is to argue that the materialistic conception of man to nature is perceived only in terms of what man can only benefit from nature and not what it can add or it can use to sustain the ecosystem. The objective of the study, this paper seeks to explore the dark road as a direct response to the challenges of globalization, as it contextualizes the challenging experience of Chinese citizens in a global city. The research questions for this paper goes forth. How has human action portend ecophobic rhetoric? In what way has the invention of economic liberalism further jeopardized a balanced ecosystem? How has China's environmental policies informed domestic imperialism? And the last one is, how has Asian industrialization and the trust for globalization degrade man's natural environment? The theoretical framework for this paper is eco-criticism. And one of the core thing that eco-criticism addresses is to advocate a change in the way man handles the natural environment. We argue here that it is important that there is a link between man and nature, because it is only when this link is brought about that we can have a balanced existence. It is in the wake, if you look at the pandemic that just ended, we notice that there has been a change in scholarship, especially the way man has responded to nature in the wake of the global pandemic. So the wake of this environmental crisis that made eco-criticism to become resurgent in discourse again. Now, one of the things that eco-criticism does is that it explores the connection between the biological and physical environment, bringing into awareness the devastation brought on nature by human activities, industrial and chemical pollution of the biosphere, and the depletion of forests and natural resources. The findings in this study. The finding in this study reveal that the novelist's critical concern is that there should be conservation of the ecosystem, because if the trend of globalization should continue the way it has been, we will see that the nature will be further devalued. Another thing the paper finds out is that the ecophobic vision of the novelist and the political ecophobic vision of the novelist is in line with the global economic and political relationship which define the country's hegemonic state. Number two, the complex situation of eco-criticism in China specifically is represented by the description on Evans Township, an e-waste dump site, which produces 70% of the world toxic e-waste. In that particular novel, specifically, Dark Road, we are presented with a global city which takes care of the e-waste dump. And the consequence of this dump is the adverse effect we see in the life of the citizens. Now, We also saw the complicity of the West because it from the novel, we observed that United Nations itself takes delivery of Chinese manufactured toys, which is later returned back as electronic waste. The findings in this paper reveals that as a result of this ecophobic rhetorics, we see the characters giving birth to abnormal fetuses because of their frequent contact with the toxic waste, and because most of them, they had to work on the waste to earn a living. In all, the paper concludes that the vulnerability of the 21st century social environment is profoundly confirmed in the face of the raging global pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We appreciate that. That's a very nice presentation. We're going to respond to it after the whole presentation is done. So quickly, we are going to move on to the next paper. It's going to be presented by Mr. Iziguso Destiny Chikura. This paper is on Jetta Amata's Black November and Andrew Levita's Minamata, Reimagining Niger Delta and Minamata City. So please, Mr. Destiny, are you there? Are you with us? Please put on your mic, we can't hear you. Unmute yourself, please. Mr. Destiny. Can you unmute your mic, please? Okay, while we wait for him, since it seems not to be available yet, we're going to move on to the next person. Do we have Dr. Grace Ojebon here? Please unmute yourself to respond.
Yes, sir.
Okay, please, you're next. Make sure you share your paper. The same protocol we follow. You have 7 minutes. Share your paper so that we will be able to follow you. Share your slide. So you have the sharing right now. So you may move ahead. Go ahead. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, please go on.
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
All right, my paper is titled Feminism and Environmental Friendliness, Indices of Nigeria and Japan. The emergence of COVID-19 in Nigeria and in Japan brought with it new norms such as the use of face masks, regular hand washing, and the use of hand sanitizers, among others. The advent of the pandemic has made the society and the world in general an unfriendly environment, as handshaking and hugging, which is a practice peculiar to women, it's now been highly prohibited. Social gatherings, partying, weekend outings, all now with serious precautionary measures in place as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. What therefore is a friendly environment? A friendly environment is that which is void of hazards. You agree with me that the coronavirus pandemic has become a global hazard. And as such, countries like Nigeria and Japan have put these precautionary measures in place to help combat this deadly virus. Again, for an environment to be friendly, it has to be free of gender biases. To this end, in the post-COVID-19 era, the rights of girls and women is to be prioritized as they happen to be the worst hit in the face of the pandemic. For this discourse, we'll rely on Gayatri Spivak theory of feminism. We'll rely on Gayatri Spivak theory of feminism in the discourse. This is to show how women are being marginalized even in the face of the pandemic. Feminism as a literary discourse seek a voice for women and girl child in a male-dominated society. To this end, Sanusi 2015 opines that justice and equality and respect for women should not be downplayed. The society should be gender balanced. So what are some of the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on women in Nigeria and in Japan? In the wake of the pandemic in Nigeria and Japan, women seem to be the worst hit, as most women in Japan, according to Takenobu 2020, lost their jobs as they were only considered in Japan as working to supplement the income of male breadwinners. That the women in Japan are only working to support their husbands, that actually they are not breadwinners as such. Laying them off their jobs will not pose any challenge to the Japanese country. In Nigeria, according to Eziodu 2020, young girls were forced into early marriages. This they claim to ease economic burdens on their parents and to relieve their family of another mouth to feed. Some of the problems young girls and women faced in Nigeria in the course of the pandemic. In Japan, the use of contraceptives, according to Yamamitsu 2020, became the order of the day, as according to the Japanese, it's in an order to checkmate population explosion. Little wonder, why will checkmating population be a problem only for the women to address? Is it out of place in the era of COVID-19 for men as well to go for contraceptive? Increase in sexual and domestic violence is also not left out. Women and girls were being sexually violated. You will agree with me that during the lockdown, there was increase in sexual abuse of women and young girls. And the way forward, both governments in Nigeria and Japan should promote healthcare for women, support integration of gender, and assist women and girls to access benefits for recovery, ensure justification for the need to support equity and relevance rather than relegation. Conclusion. COVID-19 pandemic came with its toxicity and new norms, of which, like I earlier mentioned, the women and girl child are the worst hit in the face of this pandemic. For the environment, therefore, the environment could still have survived if there's equity, gender, and fair play. Finally, I will want to state here the need for all hands to be on deck in the post-COVID-19 era to safeguard the well-being of women and girl child. Thank you. Hello.
Thank you. Thank you very much,
I've come to the
Mrs.
presentation. Thank you very much.
Mrs. Ojebo. We are very grateful. We have two more presenters. Is Destiny around now? Is it good?
Yeah, I'm around now.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. You're welcome. You have 7 minutes.
Okay, so my name is Destiny Isiguzo. I'm affiliated to Abia State University. The title of my presentation is Jets, Amateurs, Black November, and Andrew Levitas Minamata, reimagining Niger Delta and Minamata City. Minamata disease, rather, sorry, that's an error. So my work is, the study is based on the recognition of the growing connection between films and environmental studies, and is rooted in political ecology. We all know that the environmental studies has gained recognition, within the last 20 years. And apart from, authors, poets, novelists who are capturing these environmental issues, filmmakers are also beginning to capture these issues. In Japan, we have some notable films, that talks about the environment. We know that in Japan and Nigeria, Japan has had many environmental issues: the bomb Hiroshima, the Minamata disease, and several other nuclear power environmental degradation. And then in Nigeria, of course, we have the Niger Delta crisis, where we have environmental degradation out of the oil exploration in Niger Delta. I don't know if I'm still, can you guys still hear me?
Oh, yeah. Please go on.
Okay. So we have films like Ashes to Honey, a Japanese film directed by Hitomi Kamanaka, Surviving the Tsunami. It is a 2013 documentary. We have Shiranu Sea and Surviving the Tsunami, another film. And then in Nollywood, in Nigeria, we have films also that have addressed the Niger Delta issue or environmental crisis in Nigeria. We have Amazing Grace, directed by Jet Amata, 2005. Anini, Fred Amata. We have Black November. We have Blood and Oil, David Atwood, and then Crude War. So many of them that have captured the environmental crisis we have. So the point is, the focus of the study, is on how films portray environmental justice, economic inequality, and the effects of environmental degradation on the lives, environment, livelihood, and health of unimagined communities. The paper is on how political ecology affects the Niger Delta oil exploration, exploration and the environmental crisis in Nigeria. And again, in Japan, the focus of this work is on the Minamata disease caused by severe mercury poisoning from toxic industrial waste in Minamata City in Kunamoto Prefecture in Japan. These are, the primary tests we are looking at. I'm considering two films in this study. I'm considering Jet Amata's Black November, a film that was released in 2012, and Andrew Levitas Minamata, a Hollywood movie that was released this year. Even though Andrew Levitas is not Japanese, but the focus of Minamata, a film, that is the title of the film, is on the Minamata disease, which happened in Japan. The film is about, the two films are about two journalists who are, investigating the political involvement of this environmental crisis. And we are also looking at using political ecology as our theoretical framework. When we talk about political ecology, the major concern of political ecology is the power relations and dynamics and the inequalities associated with the environment and how this affects humans' relationship with the biophysical world. Political ecology looks at the unequal impacts of environmental disaster and exploitation on societies, the health effects of environmental toxics in food and on water and the means of existence, particularly as it affects communities. Political ecology also has to do with the environmental degradation of corporations. For instance, the Minamata disease, I think, is a corporation that has to do with a production company that releases its water waste to a river in Minamata. and this caused, the toxic waste polluted the water. And again, being a rural agrarian community that bases their food consumption on fishing, the Manamata people, their water was their water was degraded, and the fact that they drink from this water and the fact they fish and eat some of the fishes which were poisoned by the mercury poison as a result of the release of toxic waste into this river. So there was an outbreak of disease in Minamata, in Japan. So
I'm sorry, but you have just 2 more minutes.
Oh, okay. Let me rush up. So these are the things. This work has. So what really is political ecology? How does the environment affect the politics, and then how does it affect inequality? How does it affect distribution of wealth? How does it affect class consciousness, and how does it affect class? And we are looking at how film as a form of art has become we are looking at the environment in film art form as how it has manifested in portraying some of these crises, some of these environmental crises. Like I said, the films we are looking at is Jet Amata, Black Gold, and then Manamata. So we are looking at how these films portray this historical environmental degradation. And we are looking at how film has become an easily accessible media form today in portraying and addressing environmental issues. Films, from this study, is a highly effective, experience, and this essay argues that it is more effective and lyrical to use film as a means of exposing environmental degradation, as a means of environmental activism, and also as a means of addressing exploitation and inequalities created by environmental exploitation and exploration. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Iziguzo. We're very, very grateful for that deployment of political ecology in the 2 themes in a comparative perspective to enable us to understand how we can bring these 2 societies together in a way that enables us to find some comparative insights that will take us beyond the present state of things. Thank you very much. We'll straight away go to our last presenter, Dr. Nasir. Is Dr. Nasir around?
Yes,
are you available?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon.
Oh, okay, okay. You have 7 minutes.
All right.
I think something is wrong with your microphone. We can barely.
Hello. Hello. Am I audible now? Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Am I audible now?
Yes, you are audible. It's just some interference from your side.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, there are.
Let me start by saying that the year COVID. Okay. I think it has to do with the network because it's calm here, so it's far away.
Yeah, please go on.
The year 2020 was characterized by deadly virus outbreak, which we all know is COVID-19, that emanated from Wuhan, China. Well, the symptoms exhibited by COVID-19 ranges from fever, cough, respiratory systems, shortness of breath, and all that affected by the World Health Organization. Well, the environmental characteristics of COVID-19 suggest lower survival rates and something to be reckoned with as far as Africa is concerned. Because of the African continent, although there have been pockets of recorded infections, Nigeria test industry arrived on every 28, 2020. And since then, cases of people tested negative, positive nationwide that cost many lives. And as at October 5th, the total number of COVID-19 patients are 506,505 people have been tested nationwide. 9,045 confirmed cases, 7,401 active, 50,901 discharged, and 1,131 days recorded. That's about 2 days ago. Well, the reality of the fact is that the actual numbers of the people infected are unknown, as apparently healthy people are not tested unless they have a travel history to high-index countries. And of course, Nigeria does not have enough testing kits to test the 100 people population. Therefore, for now, there is no long cure for COVID-19. The best advice given by experts is to avoid patients, and if infected, to go on quarantine for 14 weeks while undergoing treatment. And of course, everybody is advised to wear face masks, and all that, to protect themselves. Therefore, in view of this, it poses serious danger to human existence, and Nigerian government and their counterparts all over the world show that the country to prevent the escalation of the disease and contain the people already infected. Naturally, this led to job cuts, job loss, and all that. And badly hit by this action, the performative art, that is the performance, the theater, whose practice depends on many people for drama, rehearsal, and presentation, as well as many audience members view the well-rehearsed performances. Well, even though it actually affected the theater, but it didn't succeed in bringing down the industry in its totality. Reason being this is that another way was found to practice profession, and it resulted to something that is called teledrama, because the theater is such a vibrant profession that it is necessary in all human endeavors. The fact, therefore, shall focus on drama therapy as a means to cope with COVID-19 and offer support in post-COVID-19 era. And why am I focusing on not because drama is much more important than other arms of the theater, but because in this part of the world, Africa, of drama, there is no way we not infuse like other parts of the world where drama stands alone. Music. That is why drama is about drama therapy. Is drama as therapy to cope with COVID-19 and also to cope with its effects. Maybe it will drug expand the post-COVID-19 era. This lesson gave up which is built on intimacy and likeness that can exist on screen as actors and audience meet each other from the privacy of their homes. This was easily achieved through the trinity of the performative therapy. Said earlier, drama, dance, and music. Yes, please. Can you hear me? Hello.
You have just 2 more
Yes.
minutes. I'm sorry. You have 2 more minutes.
All right. Okay. Okay. I'm round up now. Okay. Let me go to what drama therapy is. Drama therapy is the systemic and intentional use of drama and theater processes, products, and associations to achieve therapeutic goals of symptoms relief, emotional and physical integration, and personal growth. It is an active approach that helps the client tell their story, resolve a problem, strengthen the ability to cope with, especially in the period. Its practice involves the intentional use of metaphor and mimesis to facilitate the physiological and psychological and social and social health, and also offer the individual community highly engaging, non-stigmatizing approach to discover themselves. Now, this type of theater actually is not new in several countries, though it may be new in Africa. For example, as reported by Yao in Kenya, it was used in Japan, especially after World War II, for depression among the soldiers. Teledrama has been used now, the use of technology, WhatsApp, Zoom, etc., which enables both the client and the therapist to engage in virtual conversation through the warmth and closeness. Though the warm and closeness will be absent, it perhaps remains the best medium during this pandemic period. I want
Thank
to
you so much, Dr.
paper
Nasir.
emphasizes that.
Dr. Nasir.
All right,
thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Yes, I will once again like to thank all the presenters for the stimulating presentations. I would like you to just go to the chat box and see what questions are there for you. I think there is one there for Mr. Iziguzo. I would also like to challenge those who have presented. For instance, I would like to speak to Kalejaye Daudru and Iziguzo also. For instance, my question will be, possibly because we do not have the time to go deep into the papers and the recommendations you have there. But my worry is beyond realism, beyond just depicting, for instance, the environmental degradation in the Niger Delta or the issue of the Minamata disease in Japan, in what way do the filmmakers and the writers gesture towards some kind of amelioration of the situation? In other words, it's not just sufficient to outline what is wrong. Novels, films, and on must, in a way, be socially engaged. And in being socially engaged, it simply means that you must also gesture towards how we move, where do we go, what do we do? Okay, that is one side of my question. The other side of it, and this applies also to Mrs. Ojebun also, beyond just comparing, two sides. In fact, comparison of Japan and Nigeria will essentially be fraught with danger because we may be comparing two unlikes. I mean, we have Japan on the one side that is an industrialized country, and we have Nigeria that is a progressively underdeveloping country. So responses, for instance, let's take the film. Perception of the film on one side by a Japanese filmmaker and the perception of another filmmaker coming from the third world will likely be different. I mean, one is working within the context of underdevelopment, another is working within the context of development. So how do we achieve that kind of comparison in a way that will give us some illuminating insights? So that will be the question that I would like all the presenters to respond to, and then that will give us some kind of on that. Comparative analysis is not just done for the sake of comparative analysis. We must also look at how what are the two things that we are comparing and whether we can in the first place even compare them. So we can give just maybe one minute each to all the presenters, and then this panel will be over. Thank you very much. So who would like to go first?
Okay, let me say that Destiny Siguzo.
Yes.
Let me say that the role, the issue of the role of the artist, has been a controversial one, where we have the objective, the mimetic, and the pragmatic theories who are arguing on the role of the author. But I think in this sense, the role of these filmmakers is not per se to offer solutions. Of course, we know the solution. We know the solutions to environmental crisis. We know the solutions to environmental exploitation. But the major reason is to expose some of these environmental crimes that are being perpetrated, on unimagined communities. And then it is to a call to action. So the role of the artist sometimes, cannot go beyond exposure, narrative. An author become an activist when he begins to rally around, going to the street or taking concrete action. But I think beyond this, beyond this argument in the films, these authors were set out to expose some of these hidden crimes, the issues, the issues that borders on this community, the pain and anguish some of these unclean communities, experiences. I think that is what they set out to do, and I think they were very successful.
Well, I agree with you. I agree with you. But you see, take a matter, for instance, and take an average Niger Deltan who feels the brunt of this degradation. Take an average fisherman in the Niger Delta, for instance. Are you saying, for instance, that Amata is able to give us a perspective that the fisherman does not embody already? You understand me, Mr. Iziguzo? So the average fisherman already embodies the pain and the trauma of that degradation, and is not just satisfied with just having the thing thrown back into his face. What he wants are solutions. So if the filmmaker, if the writer, if the activists are not willing to give us that, solution, way out, how his traumas can be ameliorated or can be reduced, then what is the point of a novel? What is the point of a film? And who are the people watching the film in the first place? Okay, so that is my point, but it's okay. I mean, we can go with your point. But you see, it's a dangerous thing that in Africa, film should be for film's sake, should be essentially for aesthetic purposes, rather than being socially engaged, rather than addressing the situation and pointing to a way forward. That's my point. Yeah, can we have any other presenter?
Dr. Henry Abaya asked a question in the chat room for Mr. Iziguzo Destiny.
Iziguzo, yes.
Yes. So you may
more or less talked about intentions, and I never got to hear the final sound it got from the. Okay, what I try to do is to say that film is a more potent. My finding is that film is a more potent and more powerful and a more beautiful means of exposing some of these things. For instance, a film is condensed into maybe an hour, 30 minutes, and full of action. And, the audience or the film, the audience or the person watching the film is engaged, through sight and sounds, what goes on in the next level. He participates. There's a kind of a form of response, to these activities as it is being dramatized in the film. Therefore, my finding is that films, more than some other forms of art, moves the audience, to action. And there's what we call a fictive identification with the issues and the events that the filmmakers are trying to portray. Therefore, even though you've not been to Niger Delta, even though you've not been the sites of environmental degradation, for the fact you are seeing it in the movie means that you are having a fictive identification. You begin to identify with the people that are in the film. Again, there's an issue you raise. How does this affect the fisherman in Niger Delta? The fisherman does not have the platform Jetamata has. He may not be able to tell the story. And that is why the artist goes to tell the stories of people from this unemerging community who may ordinarily not have the platform to tell the stories. To know that the government.
All right, so we need to move on to. I give someone else the chance to talk now.
No problem. Thank you so much.
Yes. All right. Can any of the other speakers respond to the questions raised by the chairman of the panel session? We have to move on in the next 2 minutes, so please just take a few seconds to respond. Mr. Sunday Dawodu,
can I say something very quickly?
Yes.
Yes, I'm here. Can I say something very quickly?
Okay.
Yeah, one of the points raised by the panel chair is the fact that beyond just recommendation, lamenting what is the recommendation made by these writers. And I want us to look at a person in Law of My Planet. One of the things he's been able to do is to choose one of his characters, a particular character called Tundi, and most especially at this time, a female, and they use this character to encourage his readers, not just only to lament the problem or the issue of environmental degradation in the Niger Delta or all over, but also to show that we can have a better environment. And that is what came up with the name Love My Planet. That is, no matter whatever is going, we should strive to love this planet and make it beautiful. So I think, yeah, a person as a writer, and I think writers generally, apart from lamenting, also use their work to encourage investment in making the environment a better place.
Thank you, please. Is there any, I think those who have spoken, they've captured the responses. I'll just implore us to look at the papers to make sure that the main thesis of the paper and the focus is more established. Okay, please, we need to move on now. We are moving on to the breakout sessions. Some of us here have been asking, how is the breakout sessions going to work? Right now, our team will our team is working on breaking this entire room into 2. We are going to have 2 sessions that will run concurrently. So you are going to be broken into different panels. You have a panel chair in your session. You are going to have the right to share. Whenever it's your turn to present your slide, make sure you go to the share screen, then you share your slide with everybody. So that way, people will also be able to follow your paper. It will be more, the communication will be better that way. So we also want to say that should it be that anybody's turn, when it's anybody's turn to present and the person is having network issues, if it's not something that we can accommodate, the chairman of the panel can just move ahead to someone else. And if at the end of the presentation, the person is still not available, the chairman will have the right, will be able to actually present for the person that is not available. So we have a stipulated time after which our team is going to bring everybody here for the General Assembly. So we are going to the breakout sessions now. please, as we move forward, we are already working on it. You are going to be sent into different rooms now. Just a moment. So, but if you needed to clarify anything, just use this few seconds to clarify before you are moved into your sessions, into your panel sessions. So while we wait for you to move to panel to session, while we wait for people to leave this general room to their individual panel, please, if you have any question, go ahead. Okay, I have an observation from Mr. David Love here. He's saying that please, those that have presented, are they presenting again at the No, you are not presenting again. If you have presented, but you are going to attend the panel sessions, you are going to be sent with others to different panel sessions. You are meant to ask questions, observe, help to improve the papers, giving your observations to the presenters there. That's why you are meant to be in the panel session. So then I have another observation here. Okay. We have Mrs. Elizabeth Sonogo here saying, I'm presenting for Dr. Elizabeth Sonogo, and I hope I'm sent to our panel. So, okay, we are going to do that. Our team is noting that right now. So, Elizabeth Sonogo will be sent to Dr. Elizabeth Sonogo's panel for the breakout session. So, just a moment. Make sure you prepare your slide and get ready, so that we won't waste further time. Presentations will be done swiftly.
And Dr. Guya is chairing this panel. Okay, it's happening. Oh. Okay.
I can only send them message. I can't go back to the mail. Okay, please return back so I can talk to them. I'm not sending message. I want to talk to them. Yes, they are. Okay.
So hello everyone.
I can hear you, ma. We can hear you. Hello? Hello?
Can I speak with them now? Can they hear me now? In the main room. Okay, okay, please. Everybody in the main room, yeah, once you are sent, you will receive an invitation to join the breakout session. So click on that, join the breakout room. Join the breakout room. Make sure you accept it. Okay? We are waiting for you in the breakout rooms now. Do that quickly. Yes.
As well as beef carrots and tiger nuts.
hello everyone. Please, as soon as you receive the notification to join a room, kindly ensure to click the button so that you can be added to the respective room that's been created for you. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I understand that you are currently unable to join either of the rooms that have been created. This is because you have failed to accept while you are being added immediately then. So what I would advise that you locate a button that will lead, a button called Breakout Room on your screen right now, and then click Join to the room that has already been assigned to you. Kindly do that right away. Thank you very much.